This chapter is about the nervous system, and as usual, we're going to focus on the core of the chapter, the most important points, the basics, basically. So the nervous system is that system that control our body. Endocrine system also control our body, which we will do later. But there is a difference here. The nervous system for immediate control of our body. Like you touch something hot or painful, you react right away. Remove your hand right away in less than a second. While the endocrine system is also controlling our body, but this is long term. So like your blood sugar goes down and you're going to detect it, and then you're going to secrete hormones, and then you're going to correct it, and so on. So it takes time. So nervous system and endocrine system, those two are the managers of the body. They manage the whole body. Nervous system, immediate, short term, and this is what we're doing, versus the endocrine system is slow to start, but long term. So nervous system is divided in different ways, and this is very important to understand from the beginning. The first way of dividing the nervous system is location. This part of the nervous system located at the center of the body, like this, orange, the brain in the skull, and the spinal cord and the vertebral column, vertebral canal specifically, those two together are located right here at the center of the body, not at the periphery. It's at the center. So we call those together central nervous system, the part of the nervous system at the center of the body, brain and spinal cord. Anything at the periphery, which is not the center, periphery, outside, we call it peripheral nervous system, which is what's connecting the central nervous system to the different organs of the body. It's this connection between central nervous system and the body, like the wires. We call those peripheral nervous system. That peripheral nervous system connecting the brain to different body organs, we call it cranial nerves. Cranial nerves. Cranial is coming from cranium, which is head. The nerves or the peripheral nervous system that's coming from here, from the spinal cord, we call them spinal nerves. So follow with me as we go, because we're going to go a little bit deeper, not that much, but just deeper as we go. So again, central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, central nervous system at the center, brain, spinal cord, brain inside the skull, spinal cord inside the vertebral column, and both of those are at the center of the body, along the axis of the body at the center. Anything peripheral to that, peripheral nervous system. But when you say peripheral to that, meaning connecting the central nervous system to the other organs, connecting which part? Connecting the brain, cranial. Connecting the spinal cord, spinal nerves. These are the wires or the connections, peripheral nervous system. Um, the cells of the nervous system are called nerve cells, also known as neurons. And this is extremely important, like basics. And you can see a picture like this because simply it's like ABC. This is like the bottom line. So this is how the cells of the nervous system looks like. Again, we call it neuron or nerve cell. Neuron is more common, and it consists of the following. This is a body containing the nucleus and other organelles, like mitochondria. If you guys remember when we did the cells, we mentioned inside the cells we have the nucleus and the mitochondria and the lysosomes and Golgi apparatus, all that stuff. Um, but most importantly, nucleus and mitochondria located in this part, we call this part the body. There are multiple short branches And these branches are actually going toward the body because when we discuss the electrical signal that moves within the nervous system, it goes in from these branches that are called dendrites. So it enter from the dendrites, go to the body, and then it will leave through this long structure here called axon. Dendrites, body, axon, and then nerve endings or axon endings at the ends of the axon. And this is the direction of the electrical signal. We call it action potential. It go from the dendrites. We have many dendrites in this type. So it goes from all these dendrites toward the body, and from the body toward one axon. This is most of the cells are like this. There are other types of cells, but this is beyond our scope. So we're focusing on this one, which has one axon only. At the end of the axon, it's going to branch. So we go in one direction only. Dendrites to the body, not the opposite. From the body to the axon. From the axon to the axon endings or terminals. And then from those to the dendrites of the next neuron, to the body, to the axon endings, to the dendrites, and so on, cell after cell after cell. This is how it works. So familiarize yourself with this picture. It's very important. And again, it's basics. Now, I told you guys that the central nervous system is at the center, which is brain and spinal cord. And peripheral are these nerves connecting the central nervous system to the other organs. Now, we're going a little bit deeper. When we say this part of the peripheral nervous system connecting the central nervous system to the different body organs, when we say this connection, and we're talking about electrical signal, which is called action potential. Electrical signal is called action potential. This electrical signal, is it moving from the different body organs and parts to the central nervous system, bringing information to the central nervous system, or taking motor command from the central nervous system to the organs? Why are we saying it this way? Because I told you the nervous system is the manager. Central nervous system is the top management. So you send information to your manager and you take orders from your manager, not the other way around. You can't give orders to your manager, of course. You give him information. Meaning that this, look at this part of the peripheral nervous system, we call it afferent, because it is accessing the central nervous system, moving toward the central nervous system, and we call it sensory because it carries sensation to the nervous system, the central nervous system specifically. And then most of the time you have an interneuron, and the prefix enter means in between. So you have one more here in between, and then the other one is moving out from the central nervous system, moving out, obviously carrying motor command. We call it efferent or motor because it carry motor command away from the central nervous system. So if you're bringing information or sensation from the different body parts to the central nervous system, we call that afferent, accessing the central nervous system, which is sensory. And then the nervous system will decide something, will give an order. These motor commands from the central nervous system to the different body parts, leaving the central nervous system, we call it efferent. To remember it, exit. Axis with A, afferent, toward central nervous system. Exit from the nervous system with E, efferent, which is motor. So something like this, like a mosquito bite. Um, what happened if you feel like a mosquito bite? You're going to move. Yes, but what happened in between? Details. When this mosquito start to bite you, this is a stimulus, something painful. You have receptors in your skin that will take this sensation, will receive it, receptors. And then an afferent or sensory will take this sensation or information to the central nervous system, which is the manager. In the central nervous system, there will be an interneuron. It will go to your central nervous system, and your central nervous system will decide that we should move away or hit the mosquito or whatever the action that you're going to take. So it will send the signal through what? Efferent, which is a motor neuron. This efferent will go to the effector. What's the effector? The effector is the organ that will do the job. You're sending a motor command. Who is going to do this motor command? The effector. In this case, you're going like to move away. So what's the effector here? It's a muscle that help you to move away. So you start from receptor, receiving the signal, afferent, accessing the central nervous system sensory. In the central nervous system, you make the motor command. It leaves through efferent with E, carrying motor command until it go to the muscle, which is the effector, and then you move away. So even though that takes less than a second, but it go through all of those, from the stimulus to the receptor, to the sensory or afferent, to the central nervous system, which is the manager, uh, passing through an interneuron, going to the motor or efferent, carrying the motor command to the effector, and the effector will do the job. Usually the effector is, in this case, it's muscles, skeletal muscles, but it can be also a gland. Like if it is hot, same pathway. Receptors detect the signal that's getting hot. From these receptors, afferent go to the nervous system, interneuron making a motor command. And in this case, it will send the signal to the sweat glands. So this is another way. So effector can be muscle or gland. So here is the central nervous system. Look at this. It's at the center, brain and spinal cord. Inside inside this, we have the interneuron and other supporting cells. They are called glia. What are the glia? Supporting cells. They support the nerve cells, which are the neurons. It support it, feed it, protect it, and so on. How about the peripheral? Anything at the periphery. And I mentioned it according to the direction. Are you carrying information from the different parts of the central nervous system that's called sensory or afferent? Or are you carrying a motor command from the central nervous system to the different body organs? And we call that efferent or motor. This is one way to divide it. The other way to divide this is not just by the direction. Be divided according to which organs are you communicating with? This peripheral nervous system, connecting body parts. Yes, which parts? Which organs? Are you talking about skin and skeletal muscles, for example? Like you take sensation from the skin, from the receptors in the skin, send it to the nervous system, and the nervous system give you a motor command to the skeletal muscles, the voluntary muscles. If that's the case, we call that somatic nervous system. On the other hand, if receptors inside your heart sending a signal, afferent or sensory, to the central nervous system, and the central nervous system send a motor command, efferent or motor, to the heart to speed up. So which organ are you communicating with in this case? Communicating with the heart, back and forth. The heart. Is the heart a viscera, like inside your trunk? Is it involuntary? If yes, then this is called autonomic. And autonomic is coming from autonomy, involuntary. So, are you communicating with skin or skeletal muscles? Back and forth, skin, skeletal muscles. This is somatic. Skeletal muscles are voluntary. So this is the voluntary part, which we call it somatic. Or are you talking about involuntary organs? Like back and forth from one of the involuntary organs, whatever the organs are, not just the heart, anything inside your trunk, anything is involuntary. Heart, lung, intestine, digestive system, respiratory system, whatever it is, all of these are involuntary organs. So connection with these involuntary organs, we call that autonomic. So I hope you guys are focusing so far. This part that's connecting central nervous system to the involuntary organs or viscera is also further subdivided into somatic and sympathetic and parasympathetic. What does that mean? Meaning, according to the motor command, are you asking the heart to speed up or to slow down? Are you asking your respiratory system to speed up or slow down? And so on. If you are asking to speed up, specifically here in the heart and respiratory system, this is called sympathetic. If you're asking them to slow down, this is called parasympathetic, but it's not that simple. Sympathetic is not only to accelerate the heart and accelerate or speed up the respiratory system. This is part of it. But sympathetic is actually fight, fright, flight. Fight, fright, flight. If you're fighting, it's very simple. Just think about it. If you're fighting or if you're frightened, what do you think will happen? You name it. If I ask you, like, this is common sense, that's not even physiology, just think about it. Like if I ask you if you're fighting, would your heart accelerate, speed up, or slow down? Of course, speed up. Do you breathe faster or slower? Of course, faster. Do you sweat? Yes. Your eyes dilate to see more and be able to fight? Yes. This is called sympathetic. If you are in a fight, your digestive system, do you stimulate your digestive system or inhibit it? Inhibit it. Why? Because I'm in the middle of the fight. I'm focusing on the organs that I need during the fight. What do I need during the fight? I need my muscles. I need to concentrate. I need to see. I need to breathe more. I need more blood. So think about it. And exactly the opposite is the parasympathetic, and that's why they call it rest, digest. If you're sitting down and eating, why do you need to accelerate your heart? What do you need to breathe fast? Why? No. Why do you need to inhibit the digestive system? No. You stimulate the digestive system to work more because this is the good time. So it's all about the situation. Are you in a situation of danger or fight or something like that? Sympathetic. Are you in a situation of resting, digesting? Parasympathetic. So what's it called? The afferent sensory. And then the one in between, interneuron. And then the one that's efferent, E, exit, leave, motor, command, motor neuron. The two parts of the nervous system are, of course, central and peripheral. Central, what are the parts? Brain, spinal cord. These are all basics. Peripheral. Peripheral consists of branching, what do you call them? Branching what? Branching nerves. Yes. Which nerves? Nerves connecting the brain or the spinal cord. Connecting the brain, cranial. Connecting the spinal cord, spinal nerves. So the spinal cord, if you look at the spinal cord within the vertebral column, we did the vertebral column in the bones, in the skeletal system, and it is located in here to be protected. And to be more protected, it is covered by three layers. Like if you are wearing like undershirt, a t-shirt, and a jacket, all of these are covering you to protect you. Here, it's the same thing. You have three protecting layers, and these protecting layers are called meninges. Meninges. Now, the two parts of the nervous system, brain and spinal cord, which one is higher in the management? Both of them are managers, yes, but which one is higher? Brain is higher than the spinal cord. So the spinal cord is for the basics, like reflexes. Like you touch something, you move away. Like if you're sleeping, if something, like if you accidentally touch something painful, do you have to wake up and think about it and decide? No. Spinal cord. So your spinal cord is responsible for the minor managements that doesn't need a lot of thinking, immediate. While your brain is about something that you can think about. It's your voluntary, or I mean conscious. From the central nervous system, these nerves, look at this, here a nerve, nerve, all these nerves connecting this spinal cord to the different body parts, we call it spinal nerves. Why? Because it connects the spinal cord to the body parts. So I talked about the peripheral nervous system at the periphery. It's either somatic or autonomic. Basics. Somatic, skeletal muscles and skin. Autonomic, anything else. Because everything else is involuntary, right? Think about it. What else is voluntary in your body beside the skeletal muscles? What else is voluntary? Everything is working by autonomy. Like if you're sleeping, it's still working. This is autonomy, autonomic. Your heart does it stop if you're sleeping? Do you tell the heart contract, relax, contract, relax? No, it's working autonomy, automatically. So all other organs are autonomic. If you are in a situation of fight or fright, sympathetic. Rest, digest, parasympathetic. You name it. Here is fight or flight. If you're frightened or if you're fighting, think about it and you will know what exactly is happening. Parasympathetic, rest, digest. And by the way, the parasympathetic is the normal one. This is the one that's taking the upper hand all the time until something dangerous happens or until you are frightened or under stress or fighting or whatever, which is, of course, this is minor part of your life. The major part is, of course, parasympathetic. This is normal. You're resting. You're not fighting all the time. So normally the parasympathetic dominates. Occasionally, sympathetic dominates if you are in fight or flight. So here is the peripheral nervous system, as you see here, connecting the central nervous system to the different organs. Sympathetic, you name it. Just think about it. What happened to me if I am fighting? And you will get it. Do I need urinary system at this time? Digestive system? No. Reproductive system? No. These systems are not helping me during the fight. So I'm going to suppress or inhibit those. And I'm going to activate, excuse me, I'm going to activate those that I need during the fight. My muscles, my heart, my lung, blood pressure increase, sweat, and so on. Pupil dilate to see more, and so on. And there are, uh, during this sympathetic, there are neurotransmitters and I will talk more about it. Remember, the nervous system, it's not like one huge nerve that's taking the whole nervous system. No, it is nerve cell after nerve cell after nerve cell, or neuron, neuron, neuron. I showed you guys that starting from the dendritis to the body to the axon end, again to the dendritis to the body to the axon end, again and again. So the point I'm trying to make here is electrical signal is moving in the neuron because it's one structure, one neuron, it's connected. At the end, there will be another neuron. They don't touch each other most of the time. And when I say most of the time, meaning this is what we need to know. Exceptions is too much. We will discuss it in more advanced classes. But for now, we're talking about the vast majority. So the vast majority is at the end, it doesn't touch the next neuron. It actually secretes chemicals to cross the gap in between those two and go to the next neuron. These chemicals are called neurotransmitters. And this is the nervous system is working with neurotransmitters, neuronervous transmitters, chemicals. So again, sensory receptors pick up the sensation, the signal, afferent, taking it toward the central nervous system, accessing central nervous system, spinal cord, brain and spinal cord, efferent or motor, and this efferent, are you going toward skeletal muscles? Somatic. Are you going to viscera or autonomic organs? Autonomic. Are you in a fight-fright mode? Sympathetic. Are you in resting, digesting mode? Parasympathetic. Peripheral nervous system consists of nerves traveling to and from the brain, if it is cranial nerves, and the spinal cord, if it's spinal nerves. But in this case, it's the brain. The peripheral nervous system, somatic. Somatic. Is it skeletal or smooth? Which one of those is voluntary? Skeletal, like biceps, triceps, quadriceps, these muscles. So skeletal. Remember the smooth muscles? What are the smooth muscles? Any other muscles that are not skeletal and not heart. Of course, it's involuntary. So when we say somatic, we're talking about skeletal. Somatic, skeletal. Don't forget this. Not smooth, which is voluntary. Somatic, skeletal, and that's why it is voluntary. Autonomic, in the other hand, is controlling smooth muscles, and this is obviously involuntary. Okay, if I give you an example, can you like constrict your bronchi? You can't. These are smooth muscles. Can you constrict your esophagus? No. Can you dilate? Can you contract? Can you dilate your small intestine? No, no. Blood vessels? No. It's involuntary, smooth muscles. The autonomic nervous system is sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic for aroused state, like fight, flight, and parasympathetic for housekeeping, like rest, digest. Spinal cord carries signals between peripheral nerves and the brain. It also control some reflexes, like touch something, move away. So look at this. This is the end of one, and this is the beginning of the next. In between the end of this neuron and the beginning or the dendritis of the next, there is a gap that's called, this is called synapse. What's a synapse? Ending of one and beginning of another one. This is called synapse. They make a synapse together. Means they are meeting, not touching, but just getting very close like this. There is a very tiny gap, and you're going to secrete neurotransmitter to cross the gap and go to the next neuron. You're going to make an electrical signal. So electrical signal is moving down this neuron. It goes all the way to the end. Can the electrical signal jump the gap? No, it cannot. It cannot. But I need to send the electrical signal to the next one. What should I do now? Release a neurotransmitter, crossing the gap. Neurotransmitter go to the next neuron. In this case, go to the dendritis. And when it goes to the dendritis, this neurotransmitter is going to create another electrical signal in this next neuron. So dendritis, electrical signal now. Dendritis, body, axon, axon ends or periphery, tips. Now you have to stop because there is a synapse, there is a gap. But I want to send the electrical signal to the next. You cannot. What should I do now? You need to send neurotransmitter, crossing the gap, going to the next neuron, and the next neuron will generate electrical signal, doing it this way. Like if I'm asking you to send something like to Canada, okay? And you're using your car. So you will take your car all the way until you go to the lake, and then you have to stop. Can you go with your car in the lake? No. Your car is like the electrical signal. You have to stop when you find the lake. And then what? And then I will send a message with like a boat or something that will take it to the other side, and the other side will continue making that order that I give them. So this gap in between the lake is like this synapse, this gap. And you overcome that like you used a boat. Here you use a neurotransmitter. The neurotransmitter is your boat. It take signal, send it to the next neuron, and the next neuron is going to create another action potential or electrical signal until you go to the end, and then you do it again. Depending on the neurons, you can do it several times. Now I'm talking about this electrical signal that moves down in one direction in the neuron. How did we generate this electrical signal? This is too much details, but I'll just give you the very brief idea. The only thing that I want you to know here is in order to create this electrical signal, there are sodium and potassium pumps. You're going to move sodium and potassium in and out in a way that make electrical signal. Okay, there is positives and negatives, and you're going to move sodium and potassium in these pumps to create electrical signal, which is called action potential. So after that, when you create this action potential by moving sodium and potassium in and out through the pumps, you're going to create an electrical signal that moves down dendritis, body, axon, axon terminals, and then neurotransmitter, dendritis, electrical signal again, dendritis, body, axon terminals, neurotransmitter, and so on. This little piece here that's connecting the body to the axon is called axon hillock. So this is details about the sodium and potassium channels or pumps moving in and out, but I'm not going to go into the details. I just see here how it moves. It moves from the dendritis to the body, to the axon hillock, to the axon terminals, neurotransmitter, to the dendritis, electrical signal, to the body, the axon ends, terminals, stop, synapse, neurotransmitter, going to the dendritis, and so on. This is how the electrical signal looks like. We call it action potential. It moves like this and then go back. We call this action potential. And when a stimulus comes, like you touch something, that should create an action potential. If this stimulus is strong enough, it will make an action potential. If not, it will not create. And we call that all or none rule. So the nerve fibers, uh, the nerve impulse fires when the signal causes resting membrane potential to reverse. Again, this is too much details. It's all about sodium and potassium. There are pumps for sodium and potassium, moves in and out, creating electrical signal. You either create it or not, all or nothing. This is a neurotransmitter I talked about. Here is the end of one, and this is the beginning of the next. So when you go electrical signal or action potential moving until this point, and then you see this gap. Can the electrical signal or action potential jump? No, it cannot jump. What should I do now? Release neurotransmitters, go to the next, create action potential in the next one, and then move down. So the end of one neuron from which the action potential is leaving, going to the next. Remember this, what's a synapse? A meeting of two neurons, end of one and the beginning of one. You call it synapse. The one that's ending is called pre-synapse. What's pre? Before. Pre, Greek for before. Pre-synapse, before the synapse. This is the one that's ending. The one that's beginning is after. We call it post. Pre, before, post, after. Pre-synapse, post-synapse. Pre-synapse, releasing neurotransmitters, crossing the gap, go to the postsynapse, creating another action potential. Neurotransmitters, there are many of them. I want you to only remember acetylcholine, epinephrine, norepinephrine. There are others like dopamine, serotonin, GABA, and so on, but acetylcholine, epinephrine, norepinephrine are the main ones. Acetylcholine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, these are examples of neurotransmitters. So here it is, neurotransmitters from the presynapse, release, cross the gap, go to the postsynapse, and interact with receptors, making action potential. And then what? And then we're going to destroy these neurotransmitters. That's it. What are the neurotransmitters? Neurotransmitters are chemicals that carry the signal between the chemical synapse. We call this synapse because chemicals or chemical neurotransmitter is crossing. It moved from presynapse to the postsynapse. Now, when you say nerve, is that the same as neuron? No, it is not. Like, for example, like if somebody is involved in an accident and they say, oh, the nerve is injured, the nerve is cut. Do you mean the nerve cell or the neuron? No, no. The nerve is a collection of the axons of different neurons, group of neurons. So the neuron is the nerve cell, just one. Neuron, one nerve cell. If you get one neuron, nerve cell with an axon, another neuron, nerve cell with an axon, another one, all these axons, they run together, and we call that a nerve. And the axon is also called fiber. So collection of axons or fibers is a nerve. I have an injury and I cut my ulnar nerve. What did I cut? Did I cut a nerve cell? No. Did I cut a nerve fiber? No. You cut a group of nerve fibers or a group of axons. And the nerve is basically these long axons together, but there is a cover around it. It's connective tissue. One more thing that's important to know. Look at this axon. This is the axon here. Remember, the axon is this one long branch leaving the body. This axon can be covered or not. Most of the time, it is covered. Covered by what? By these patches. Look at these patches. Here is one patch, 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 patch. Several patches. It's not one continuous like sleeve, like, no. Patch, patch, patch. These patches are called myelin, myelin sheath, covering the axon. So here is a patch or myelin sheath, and in between, this area doesn't have anything. And then patch, myelin sheath, nothing. Here, nothing. Myelin, nothing. What do you call this nothing? And why do you have it? Like, why it is interrupted like this? Why it's not one like a sleeve, like a long sleeve? It's not like a long sleeve. It is like patch. Little piece, nothing. Cover, nothing, and so on. Because the electrical signal will jump from this point to this point to this point to this point. So jumping is fast. If you don't have this cover or myelin, the signal will have to go like from this to this to this to this to this to this, and this is slow like this, here to here to here to here. And instead of you will be jumping like from here to here to here, you go faster. And these are the myelinated neurons. Uh, most of our neurons are actually myelinated, meaning it has these patches. What do you call this part that's not covered? Like this piece, this piece, this piece. What do you call it? I call it node. So there is myelin, cover, and then node, not cover. Myelin, node, myelin, node. An electrical signal will jump from node to node to node, going fast. Just like the difference between a rabbit and a turtle. The turtle moves like this, touching every single uh, inch as it is moving, while the rabbit doesn't touch every single inch. It jump, 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 and that's why it's faster. So you have this myelin to be fast, and I want you to remember the myelin, the node, and in this case, it's myelinated fast. Remember this. Again, this is your central nervous system, the green, and the rest is the peripheral nervous system. Here it is again. This is the myelin. Look at this. Myelin. Look at this part that's gray. This is a node. Myelin, node. Myelin, node. So electrical signal will move like this. Jump, 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 jump. That's fast. What is this cover here? I told you it's myelin, which means this axon is myelinated, covered with myelin. The myelin is a cover, an insulator, a cover. Why do we have it? To make the movement faster, jumping instead of crawling. There are cells that make this myelin, and these cells are called Schwann cells. They make this myelin. Are all our axons myelinated, contain myelin? No. But I am talking about the myelinated ones right now. So here it is, jump, jump, jump. And we call that saltatory. Saltatory translation, jumping. So it goes faster. This myelin that I just talked about is very important. And if it is destroyed, this is multiple sclerosis. We don't need to know details, but I just want you to know this example, meaning that this myelin is needed to make the transmission faster. In some people, they can produce like autoimmunity and destroy this myelin, and we call that multiple sclerosis. If you want to read more about it, that's fine, but I just want you to know just one thing. multiple sclerosis is damaging the myelin. That's it. It's usually autoimmunity. For whatever reason, those people very unlucky that their body think that this myelin is not ours. It's like becoming crazy or something. What is this myelin? I don't know what is this. No, this is your myelin. No, I don't remember. So you're going to attack, destroying your myelin. Bottom line, multiple sclerosis, destroying the myelin, cover of the axons. The simplest pathway of all what we talked about is the reflex. You touch something, you move away. This is an example. Touch, move. It's not that simple. When you touch and move, I told you it is receptor, stimulus, receptor, afferent or sensory, interneuron in the central nervous system, specifically or more likely spinal cord, efferent or motor, effector that will do the job. Do we always have an interneuron in between? No. Like, look at this. Here is a signal. It afferent, go in, and then meet the efferent. There is nothing in between. So it doesn't have to be, sometimes you have interneuron in between, and sometimes you don't have it. This is one of the reflexes. If you go to the doctor, neurologist, they can like hit this tendon here and see how you move your legs. I'm not going into the details. All what I want you to know here is the components. You start from, if you hit this, receptors will pick up the signal. Afferent or sensory, go to the central nervous system, spinal cord in this case, and it will meet the efferent. Spinal cord will send the motor command to the muscles to contract, and you're going to move your leg like this. And because there is only one synapse here, look at this, afferent, ending, efferent starting. How many synapses here? Just one. One ending, one beginning. If you have an interneuron like this, how many synapses here? Look, one ending and one starting. This is synapse. This is the interneuron. Ending and the next one starting. Another synapse, we call that polysynapse. One or more. If you don't have interneuron, you have one synapse, mono. If you do have interneuron, it's more than one, poly. So here is multiple sclerosis, simply destruction of the myelin. That's it. So this communication will not be as good. Okay, and that's it. The rest is a summary of what we covered. So I'm going to stop here